Now, India's top court has postponed hearings on a new citizenship law that's provoked protests and violence nationwide. The judge's decision provoked more demonstrations in New Delhi. They want more details about the legislation from the government before considering a petition in January. So the law makes it easier for people from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan to gain citizenship, but it excludes Muslims. Critics say that's blatant discrimination by a government they accuse of driving a Hindu nationalist agenda. Well, 4 people have been killed in demonstrations since the law was introduced, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi is refusing to back down. Sohail Rahman is joining us now from New Delhi, where, as we're saying, Sohail, there have been protests. What's the situation like now?
Yes, well, those protests, Doreen, do continue across India. And of course, we've seen them in Delhi again here on Wednesday. Now, while the situation remains tense, obviously, the focus of attention on Wednesday was the Supreme Court, because Assam, the state in the northeast, which really took the brunt of, you might say, the civil society violence at heart, were in the Supreme Court on Wednesday. Now, their lawyers were trying to petition the Supreme Court to dismiss the whole Citizenship Amendment Act. The Supreme Court, as you just mentioned, said that they would stay the decision. And what that actually means is that they actually approached the government now by saying that the government need to frame the rules of the law that was passed in Parliament over a week ago. Those rules will have to be submitted to the Supreme Court. They will consider those rules, and then on January the 22nd, everyone will gather, i.e. the plaintiffs, or should I say the petitioners, over 60 separate petitions coming from across India, from a whole range of complaints about the CAA, and the government's lawyers will then basically battle it out and fight their corners in front of the Supreme Court judges, led by the Chief Justice of India, Sharad Bopde, and then we will have a much more clearer decision as to how the Supreme Court will decide whether this law acts and sits within the parameters of the Indian constitution or not.
Yeah, and is the feeling, Sohail, amongst these groups who are protesting, who are challenging this, is the feeling that the legal challenges they're putting forward will bear any fruit at all?
Sorry, Doreen, you'll just have to repeat that for me, the sound quality. I'm sorry, I'm having a few problems.
The people that are challenging this law, are they hopeful that the legal challenges will be successful?
They are hoping that the challenges will be successful. Obviously, this has riled up the public in many different ways. And depending on where you are in India, there are so many petitions against the CAA. It's actually interesting to see what type of argument various people have. If you ask people at, for example, at Jamia University, they are predominantly Muslim, and they feel that the law will discriminate against them in the months ahead, and discriminate in the sense that if you basically allow people to gain citizenship based on the fact that you are a Hindu migrant who's dealing or fled communal violence or religious persecution, you get more preferential treatment than Muslims that live here in India. However, if you take the argument from the indigenous Assamese over in the northeast of the country, their issue isn't about a Muslim majority, a Muslim minority country or a Hindu majority country. They're worried about anyone that isn't an Assamese national, who doesn't speak the indigenous language, doesn't understand the cultural values of being from Assam, coming into the state and basically diluting their culture and diluting their very being. Their argument is much more based on a cultural dilution, whereas across the country we're seeing more Muslim minority people from civil society come out onto the streets thinking that they are not going to have the rights of an Indian if because of their religion, basically.
All right, Sohail Rahman with an update from New Delhi. Thank you.